Good evening, everyone. We will try and get around the room as quickly as we can. We'll probably take questions alternating from side to side. So if you could raise your hand, we'll make sure that the microphone gets to you. Who would like to go first? Someone needs to put their hand up. Yes, Andy in the front row. Thank you.
Frank, you've often said about your team this season that you like them to take risks. You want them to be a bit more free. Is tomorrow night a night for that, or is it a night for being maybe a little bit more guarded against maybe a different class of opposition?
I don't remember saying I want them to take risks too much. I mean, I suppose it depends on the type of game. I suppose that's where you're going with the question, is that there's a two-legged game against a very strong team. And I think with the Champions League, one thing that's clear is that your concentration and focus levels have to be absolutely top throughout both games. So I like us to take risk in attacking areas to try and create and score goals. We've created a lot this season. And great at the weekend was the fact that we won a game through taking chances with two great finishes. But no, in terms of our defensive mindset from back to front, we have to be really on it. And of course, defensively, there's no risk taking.
Okay, yes, second row.
Frank, hi. Obviously a really good performance from Olivier Giroud the other day. How pleasing was that, and will he start tomorrow night?
Very pleasing, very pleasing. I don't want to go on who's starting or not. Part of the reason is because we've had a lot of recovery in between games. It's a tight turnaround. The effort put in against Tottenham in a London derby was huge, so I have to assess that all the way up to the game. But the way he played was fantastic. I think not just the goal, but the link up, the work, the link he had with Mason Mount and Ross Barkley off the ball, and the work he did for us, which is always a huge thing for me in terms of how we defend from the front. But I knew that. I rely on Ollie. I know I can. He's professional, he's quality, and he was great. So he's given me a lot to think about, obviously.
Matt.
Frank, Hansi Flick's just said that he thinks that Lewandowski is in the form of his life at the moment. Does that concern you at all, and will you as a team have to defend better than you have at any point this season tomorrow night?
I say it doesn't say concern is the word. I think form of his life means something special with Lewandowski because of how well he's been consistently in Europe for the last how many years, I don't know. Goal scoring record, everything about him from a distance, from afar, is just top class. Everything about him, and having the opportunity to watch quite a lot of Bayern in the build up to this game, to look at them, that shines through. So of course he's going to be a huge threat. He's not the only threat, but he's the spearhead. They have a lot of threats in their team, so yeah, we'll have to be at our best. There's been games this year when we've been good, very good. We travelled in Ajax and had a fantastic game off the ball. We've had games like that in the league this year as well. But as I mentioned in the previous answer, like it's, the levels have to go up. When you get to the knockout stage of Champions League against a team as good as Bayern Munich, the levels have to go up everywhere.
Yes, Tony, front row.
Frank, I just wondered if you could take us through the injuries. Who's fit, who's not fit?
Yeah, Christian Pulisic is still out. Callum Hudson-Odoi is out. N'Golo Kante's out. Pedro is back in contention, back in the squad, having missed a game with a small injury at the weekend. Is there anyone else you're thinking of? I'm sorry. Callum, I said he's out, yeah. Callum, he's not far away, but he's out for this game. Ruben's fit. He's in the squad.
Okay, Ian.
Frank, you'll have seen what Bayern did to Spurs earlier in the season, although the first half of that game, Spurs were very much in it. Is it a question tomorrow night you have to balance what Spurs didn't do on the night, which was they went chasing after Bayern got a goal? You have to balance out how you treat the game tomorrow night with it being two legs.
Definitely, and I think if that's a big part of my job, because we've got players with Champions League experience in this group, but we've also got some younger players who are in the early stages of their careers, particularly the Champions League, and they have to understand what I keep talking about, levels going up, and what the mindset levels are. A big part of my job tomorrow is to explain to the players that over two legs we need to be at our maximum. So going into the game, we must make sure that every detail is and every box is ticked in both games. So yeah, we have to make sure that we can't get caught up in game moments, because there will be times in the game where we will probably suffer, because Bayern Munich are and an incredible side with the ball. They've got some really talented players who keep the ball, use the ball well. If we have to suffer, we have to suffer. So that's our job over the next 2 games of these.
Okay, 4th row on this side. Thanks.
Mr. Lampard, Blattmerk from Sport 1 in Germany. I'm sure you want to win the title, but what do you think about the chances of Bayern Munich in the Champions League this season? Are they a team which can win the title?
Yes, for sure, they're a team that can win the title. When you go through their players, the talent in their team, the unity in their team, you know, they're sitting top of the Bundesliga for a reason. I know I had some difficulties earlier in the season, but it's a club that seems to overcome difficulties because of the strength of the players, the club itself, the structure, the fans. I've got a huge amount of respect for Bayern Munich for the times I went up against them as a player. So I think every year Bayern Munich can win the Champions League because they're so strong. It's obviously our job to try and stop them.
Hey, George at the back there. Yep.
Frank, hello. You started Reece James and Mason Mount on Saturday. Have you got any doubts about starting them tomorrow, considering it could be arguably their biggest game of their careers? And will you speak to them about what it's like to play at this level?
I've got no doubts to start them. I trust in those two. I trust in all the young players that have been part of the squad this year. That's a huge part of what we're doing here, and the only reason I trust them is because they've earned trust with the way they play and the way they behave. I will speak to them. I think they've played group games so far, but as I mentioned before, it changes slightly when you get to the knockout stage, and I will certainly speak to all of the players, and particularly the younger players, about what that means.
Hey, back on the left side there, please.
Frank, do you consider Chelsea the underdog in this game? And if yes, does it suit you with the young players you have?
I think the underdog talk for a game like this is better to come from outside, from people who are looking out to in. My job is just to prepare for the game, look at the opponent, see their strengths, see our strengths, can we find weaknesses there, and work on the game. I understand if people do call us the underdogs because Bayern Munich are so strong, and when you look at their team and the talent and the medals they already have, the experience they already have, maybe we don't have that experience, but these things are there to change. Being the underdog, if so, is there to turn it around, to overcome being an underdog. Those are the best stories in sport. So I don't get too caught up in what we're thinking before the game. I'm trying to be, or am focused on what it's going to take to try and win these 2 matches.
We go Matt and then Jacob at the front there, please.
Frank, seen a little video today of Cesar Azpilicueta taking you out with a 2-footer in training earlier. I just wondered though if that gives a sense that maybe of how fired up the players are, that sense of taking it up a level.
I don't know. I don't know if that directly relates. Thank God it was Aspie. He's in the team regularly. Like, you worry when it's someone who's not playing a lot that goes in with 2 feet. It's naturally Aspie's professionalism and way to train like that, to train as he plays. And well, did he play like that against Tottenham as well? But I think we shouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves. Our form in the league recently is something we've spoken a lot about, and we know we've not gained points that we should have done. The performances on Saturday against Tottenham was absolutely first class, off the ball and on the ball, but off the ball, which is what you need against a team like Bayern Munich. So the team are in a good place from the weekend. The team are, I think, feeling strong and feeling focused, but we have to deliver, and deliver that attitude you saw in Aspie's clip needs to be delivered for 90 minutes tomorrow.
Frank,
but not with 2 feet, obviously. maybe not quite that.
Frank, I saw you said before the Spurs game that you'd held a meeting with the players and spoken about mentality. I wonder if you could elaborate a little bit more on that and what you felt needed to change.
I just felt that, I suppose if you look at our recent form in the league, we're playing well, and it's difficult to keep saying that, but a lot of parts of our game are good. But the important parts of the game, which is final third, scoring goals, and finishing off what you're creating, and then making sure we don't concede by having absolute focus, was slightly short. Well, it's clear it's slightly short, because if you have 20 shots in a game and don't score, and a team have 2 and score, and that's a little bit recurring, then that's an issue. And for me, when I broke that down, it felt like a mindset thing, because if you're not scoring, it can be a mixture of many things. It can be confidence, it can also be something that's slack slightly in how you prepare through the week, and similarly when you defend, it could maybe be focus, it could maybe be confidence, And the things I'm talking about we definitely can improve on. So I think it was just being very honest. And the beauty of the meeting was that everyone felt the same. I've been in meetings where they don't. People can't find a reason. Even if the manager says it, they disagree or whatever. No, the players are very much in this to be successful. I've got a really good group. And the reaction in the meeting and the reaction against Tottenham, which is the most important reaction, was spot on. Now, what we can't do now is forget what made us beat Tottenham and made us play so well at the weekend, because we have to replicate that and more. So I was pleased with the start. It was a start for us on Saturday, a mini start for what we've got ahead of us now. But we need to keep going.
Okay, we'll do two more, Andy, and then we'll come over here. Thank you.
Yeah. Frank, you're just saying that the team's in a good place at the moment. Is a lot of that down to the winter break? Because this game tomorrow is perhaps what it's all about, isn't it? It's giving you that extra bit of energy to go through into these latter stages of tournaments like this. Do you feel that you've had some palpable or tangible benefit already, and that maybe Bayern will come across a more energised Chelsea tomorrow than they might have done?
I'm not sure. I liked the winter break. I thought it was a very positive thing for the Premier League teams, particularly the ones in Europe as we are now. Other countries, other European countries have breaks naturally themselves earlier on, over January, December, January, whatever it is. So I think we're all in a similar boat now, and we needed to get in that boat, and we weren't before. And a little bit of the mental freshness, I would say, as much as the physical, was seriously important for us. But it will only be proven in the results, Andy. You know, it depends now how we go about ourselves going forward. But hopefully there is a freshness and there's a focus, and we know the job's in hand now. It becomes very critical at this time of the season, which is what I like. It's what we play football for, is to play knockout football against the best teams in the world. So, you know, it should be easy to focus for that for us all.
Okay, final question, please.
Yeah, Frank, so after the Spurs game, Tony Rudiger came out and said that he felt as if racism had won in regards to the fact that no one was punished from the incident at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and then that the Spurs fans booed him. Just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I answered this after the game at the weekend, and firstly, I completely support Tony, as I would support all my players in a similar instance. I don't think this club, well, we will continue to do a lot more, but it's up till now, it couldn't show more how much we defend our players and fight against anything like this. And it was an alleged incident. I'm behind Tony. I don't know the absolute ins and outs of how Tottenham have looked into it, but you have to have faith in that everybody in the Premier League now is working in the same direction with these things. And I haven't got much more to say, other than the fact that I support Tony and everybody on all my players on all these instances, and the club are very firm on this.
Okay, thanks very much, everyone.
And we done.